Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and with me today is Larry Vickers. And I had the chance to sit down with Larry Vickers, and we are going to do a quick Q&A covering a couple of different subjects. We're going to talk about some modern gun stuff, and we're going to talk about World War II German guns as well. Because the reason that I'm here is to do some signing of books with you on your new World War II German Weapons Volume 1 Vickers Guide.
Yes, my new book. However, you were a critical part of that book.
Well, I wrote some of it.
Yeah, gave superb input.
You're flattering.
Yes.
So since I'm here, I figured, well, let's pick your brain about some cool stuff. So let's see. Let's start off.
I've not seen any of the questions, by the way.
Nope, this is all cold.
This is all cold.
But there's really no gotcha stuff in here.
Yeah.
Any guns you regret selling?
Oh, man. Offhand, no. I'm sure if I dug into it, I could think of some.
Is that only because you haven't sold any guns?
No, I do occasionally sell some. I do occasionally sell some, but usually, and I know there's something, and I'll be thinking about this in the back of my mind, and as we go on, I'm pretty sure I'll come back and revisit it.
Okay.
But here's what I usually do, is if I sell one and regret it, then I will go and later source one either better or what, you know what I mean? That's generally what I do.
You go back and retro and
yeah,
fix
like
the
I'm in the
problem.
process of doing that right now with a SIG P210-5. I actually traded one years ago for another SIG P210. Now I would like to have one in the collection, and I'm in the process of sourcing one. I'll be the first one to tell you, though, it's going to cost me a lot more money. About triple what it was back in the day. So that's kind of the way I do it. I revisit and then reacquire it later on.
Okay, that's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
By the way, it occurs to me that not everybody knows who you are. So let's see. If I go over the basics, correct me if I get anything wrong here. You originally enlisted in the U.S. Army.
Yeah.
You went pretty much straight into Rangers.
Now, Special Forces, because back when you could do it, there was a window there where you could, believe it or not, you could come in off the street, and I did it at 18, and go right through basic training, infantry training, or whatever you were doing, engineers or whatever the case may be, airborne, and then go through Special Forces, and then you were a Green Beret. Believe it or not, it was a really stupid program. It was only for, I graduated in 82. I think the program ended in 83.
Okay.
You were 18, 19 years old. You're a private Special Forces. You had no idea what you were doing. So I was what they call SF baby. That was an SF baby, Special Forces baby, and I was one of those. In hindsight, I wish I'd have went into the Rangers, because once I got into Special Forces, kind of saw what it was all about, and I knew my mindset and my maturity level at that point in time, I would have definitely been a better fit at the Rangers. If I could redo it, that's what I'd have done.
Okay.
And then ultimately, a little disillusioned with SF. Wasn't quite what I was hoping it would be. I got out. Got out of the military, went to school, got a mechanical engineering associate's degree.
Cool.
I was at the point where I was either going to have to pursue and make that, a 4-year degree or whatever, or I was going to go back in and try out for Delta Force. And so that's the path I ended up doing. I went back in to the Army, went back into Special Forces, and then tried out for Delta. Made it the second time.
Okay.
First time I overtrained severely. Learned my lessons, made it the second time, and then I finished out my career in Delta.
Okay, so you were in Nicaragua, or Panama.
Yeah, Panama.
You were doing scud hunting in Iraq, weren't you? So, and I'm sure a lot of other stuff that you could tell me, but you'd have to kill me.
Yeah.
And then following on that, you got into firearms training, design, worked with HK on the 416.
Yeah.
So you do, in fact, have some basis for the opinions that we're going to be getting into.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, I was a shooter. I worked on 1911s when I was in the unit as a hobby. I was single, wasn't married, so I spent my off time shooting matches or working on 1911s. I was a serious gun guy. I took every opportunity I had. Like when I was in the military, I went over for like 3 days to the pattern room.
Nice.
Yeah, and hung out at the pattern room going, yeah. And so I took advantage of every opportunity I had. And then that kind of set me up for my post-military career.
Okay.
I went to HK full-time for a while, and I had started the 416 program, or what was initially called HKM4, when I was in the military, and then it carried over when I got out. And then I ended up moving on to other things. But that's how that process got started.
Okay. This actually dovetails extremely well into our next question from Kyle, who says, is the M16 expanding gas system reliable or a detriment? What are the pros and cons of
here's the way
AR versus
here's what I tell everybody. For the average person, a direct impingement gun is perfectly fine. Well, I tell people, and I even mentioned this in AR Volume 2, the Vickers Guide AR Volume 2, which is not this one, but it's the one we released, earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
You ask yourself 4 questions. Am I going to shoot a lot of full auto?
Okay.
Am I going to shoot a wide variety of ammunition? Am I going to run the gun suppressed? And do I need a barrel length shorter than 14.5 inches? If your answers are a serious yes in those categories, you need to take a look at a piston gun. I could argue that a piston gun like the 416 is a superior gun in those areas than a direct impingement gun for a variety of reasons. However, for the average law enforcement officer, average civilian, that's not really applicable. So a direct impingement gun is perfectly fine.
Okay, cool. Because that ties in
Absolutely.
with what I thought myself. But it's nice to have that reinforced.
And understand don't even mean to interrupt you, but understand when we started the whole process in Delta, we were looking for a compact weapon, more compact than an M4 carbine, that would function reliably for CQB purposes, for confined spaces.
Okay.
And we had tried various direct impingement flavors of the M4, and none of them were reliable. I mean, they're fine on a range when it's 72 degrees, but when it gets cold and whatnot, things change, and a direct impingement gas system was not reliable.
That's what I've heard, like the 10 and a half,
absolutely.
11-inch barrels.
And it's, by the way, it's still that way. It's still that way. You can only play with, it's like, the analogy I like to use is like a juggler juggling balls.
Mm-hmm.
And when you juggle, the balls have to kind of all be the same weight or close to it. When you start cutting that barrel down, and now you're asking that gas to go all the way back through that gas tube and energize the bolt before the projectile leaves the muzzle, an inch and a half or whatever, you're stretching it. That's a juggler now. You're way out of whack. So that's where the piston AR came from. We tried SIG 5.52s, we tried compact G36s, we tried a variety of guns. The ergonomics of the M4 obviously, are without peer.
Yep.
So it made sense to kind of take HK up on their offer, their initial concept of doing a piston, AR, and that's where that came from, a compact M4 style weapon for CQB purposes. That's where that came from.
This actually ties straight into Martin's question, which is, I hear you contributed to development of the 416. He wants to know what your opinion was on piston versus regular. I think we addressed that pretty well. How did that transition from being in the military to working with HK? What was your role in that?
When I got out and went to work for HK full time, and it only lasted a matter of months. And then I moved on, but I was basically, the project wasn't done yet. The 416 project wasn't done.
Okay.
So I ended up picking that up on the HK side and basically helped carry the ball across the finish line.
Okay.
That's where, I was kind of special projects manager, but my main baby was getting the 416 across the finish line and then initially delivered to the initial, end users, and away it went.
Okay. Makes sense. You would have had a lot of the connections to exactly the people who needed the gun.
Exactly.
Okay.
Do both sides of the house, the HK side and the military side of the house.
Perfect. Brandon says, why is it that every gun expert or former Special Forces person who has a vast amount of knowledge, experience, and skills with almost all modern advanced weapons always seem to come up light about AKs? Yes, they're cheap, reliable rifles, but everyone seems to light up when handling them.
What do you mean? What does he mean by light up?
That's a really good question. I'm not sure. I would think the question is, why do all of you guys tend to like or appreciate AKs?
I love AKs. I mean,
that's been my experience. Is the guys who have shot them a lot, and especially
I'm a big fan of them
in the real world, really like them.
It is an absolutely superb weapon.
Why? What makes it good?
I am fascinated by how simple they have made a really quite sophisticated piece of machinery, and how robust and reliable it is, and just how forgiving it is. I'm amazed by it. I mean, I really am. Because really, and a lot of the people in the U.S. who've tried to make these U.S. AKs have learned this. At first, everybody just assumes, oh, it's a crude gun. Any moron can bolt it together. I mean, whatever, yada, yada, yada. There's that pictures of the guy who made one out of a flat shovel with a receiver and all that.
And that's how you end up with IO ink.
Exactly. And then when they get into it, they'll realize, oh, wait a minute. There's a lot of little stuff. There was a whole design committee involved with bringing that thing to fruition in the Soviet Union. There's a lot of little subtle stuff inside that gun that people have a tendency to gloss over, which comes back to bite them in the ass when they try to bring it out. Like, oh, we didn't even, that little angle cut they put, that might have made, that might be critical.
It turns out there's a reason.
Yeah, there's a reason that they put that chamfer there. Who would have thought?
Weird.
So I love AKs. I'm fascinated by them. For the average guy, they're a hard gun to beat. I'm the first one to tell you that as you become a more sophisticated end user, that's where you're going to see guys kind of gravitate towards an M4. The ergonomics, the optic mounting possibilities and whatnot. But for the average guy, dude, the AK's hard to beat. I'm a big fan of them.
What's your thought on 7.62 by 39 versus 5.45? That's my own question. This didn't come out of the list.
It's kind of, there's been a lot of people killed with both calibers. I think it kind of applies, in my opinion, really the circumstances you're in. Are you going to be shooting at people in vehicles? Are you going to be shooting at people through brick walls? Or are you going to be shooting at people through cover? Then obviously the 7.62 by 39 is going to be the preferred caliber. If you're not going to be dealing with that, man, the 5.45 is a nasty little caliber.
It's really sweet shooting.
And it's real soft shooting. So you go, okay, there's less felt recoil. An average guy can get better hits. And from my experience between them, it is a more inherently accurate caliber than 7.60 by 39. Shooting a wide variety of guns on both. And we also know that's ammo dependent because the quality of that com block ammo is all over the map in both calibers.
Yeah, that's true.
But if you take kind of everything equal, same quality gun, same quality ammo, from my experience, the 5.45 is an inherently more accurate caliber.
Okay.
So that's kind of where it'd be my druthers. If it's something where I expect to have to punch through barriers of any kind in 7.60 by 39, if I'm just going to be shooting people, then 5.45.
All right. Next question is from Patrick, who says, out of all the guns you've handled, including your career in Delta, if you could take one to add to your personal collection, what would it be?
Oh, wow.
Now, you have a pretty substantial personal collection already, so we're really kind of talking unicorns at this point.
I would have to, if you don't mind, I'm going to break that down into two.
I certainly don't mind.
MKB-42W and MKB-42H. Those are the two. Everybody has to have guns that your
goals.
Your goals. Those are the two.
Okay.
Those are the two. I mean, because I've been fortunate enough to acquire a lot of other stuff that's bucket list stuff. I've been very fortunate. But those are the two that I'm still aiming for.
So I'm going to go off the questions here again. This kind of gets at the question some people are going to have, which are, you're Larry Vickers. You're well known for being the AR guy, modern weapons training. What is it that you're doing publishing a book on German World War II guns now?
Big fan of historical, I'm kind of a 1930s guy, just after World War II to present day. That's kind of my thing. And World War II German small arms, I would argue, is the most interesting, specific period, specific time frame, specific country small arms in history. Okay. When you look at all the different stuff that they had to field, the different calibers, the modifications. I mean, the mere fact that the assault rifle as we know it today basically came from the Sturmgewehr.
Yeah.
And the modern day general purpose machine gun heavily influenced by the MG42. And you could say, well, the Mag 58, is a little bit of a different animal. Yeah, but the feed mechanism, trigger mechanism, both from the MG42. So those two guns by themselves had such a huge impact on post-war, let alone the P38.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that came
absolutely. Out of it. So that's really it in a nutshell. That era, when you look at 1939 and 1945 in Nazi Germany, the impact on small arms is just immeasurable.
Yeah, you don't have to convince me. I agree already.
Yeah.
So we'll touch on the book again in a few minutes. Let's see. Actually, Brandon's question here. It seems the Germans spent an astonishing amount, if not the most, into R&D weapons during World War II, only really rivaled later by Cold War powers. Was this technology and its development a benefit or a detriment to Germany's endeavor?
I would both.
Okay.
And we kind of touch on this in the book.
Mm-hmm.
The Germans had the inability to say, okay, you know what? This is a good idea. This path we're going on here, this is a good idea. We got to flush all this, and we got to put maximum effort down this path. They had the inability to do that.
They didn't do so much flushing.
They did not do that at all. And that haunted them. I mean, you see some of the stuff they were still making late in 45, and you're like, are you kidding me? I mean, Mauser HSCs, and you're like, you're still making a 32. I mean, where's your head at? They should have just, that stuff should have been gone in 1943. So they had the inability to really, pick a direction and stay on it. The flip side to that is, so they experimented so much and did so many things, obviously a fair number of it didn't pan out, but there's quite a bit of it that did.
Right. That
really, prior to World War II, I mean, think about it. This is one of the analogies I like to make is the United States went into World War II with the M1 Garand, which
I see what you did there.
You appreciate that, which was the world standard. By 1945, it was obsolete.
Yeah, thanks to the Germans.
Thanks to the Germans.
That's a good point.
And they went in with a K9 bolt-action rifle, K98K bolt-action rifle, which certainly was not world standard, and completely did a leapfrog beyond the M1 Garand with the Sturmgewehr.
Right.
So,
what's impressive is
case in point,
they actually developed an analog to the Sturmgewehr with the G43, and then developed the next thing after it.
Exactly.
During the war.
So really the answer to that is both. They had the inability to focus in one specific direction, but because they didn't do that, they were able to do a lot of different experimentation that really, honestly, it goes from there. Obviously, rockets, jet aircraft, I mean, on and on and on. Yeah. They were able to really get a lot of technological breakthroughs.
This one may be a little bit fanciful, but Michael wants to know, if you were teleported back to World War II, what job would you want and what gun would you want?
Sturmgewehr, without a doubt.
Okay.
Job would probably be for Special Service Force.
Okay.
Yeah, and basically going to my special operations lineage.
Okay.
Not to downplay anything they did, but that was a unit that really could have done a lot. But remember in World War II, special operations was not really utilized like it could have been. It was
really in its infancy.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And so, but that would probably be it.
Okay.
Possibly 101st Airborne, but something in that realm, paratrooper or 1st Special Service Force, and without a doubt, Sturmgewehr. Yeah. Without a doubt.
Yeah. It's interesting. The 1st Special Service Force was one of the few units that actually used Johnson machine guns in particular. And I assume you've done some shooting with the Johnson.
No, I have not.
Oh.
Believe it or not, I have not. I've handled them. I've not shot one. Of course, I've got a Johnson rifle.
Yeah.
But I have not shot a Johnson light machine gun.
It's interesting. I went into the Johnson machine gun assuming it was going to be an excellent piece of gear. It feels like it's good. Everything on paper seems right, and it's a miserable gun to shoot.
Now, I also hear, too, my buddy James Dietz, the artist, knows a lot about military history and whatnot, and he got to, because he ended up doing a 1st Special Service Force print, or at least tied them into a print. I think it might have been the 1st Special Forces Group print, but regardless. And he had a guy with a BAR, and everybody was like, oh my God, that's wrong. Well, apparently there was a lot more use of the BAR than was widely known, because the 1st Special Service Force guys got the Johnson, realized the gun was kind of a dog, and ended up going with the BAR.
It's weird. It just beats the crap out of you to shoot.
So. Yeah, so no, I have not had a chance to play with one yet.
All right.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You definitely need to try it, but don't go into it.
Well, dude, I know you've shot a Johnson rifle.
Yeah, the rifle's quite nice.
Yeah, for what it is. Yeah. And when you shoot it a little bit, you go, okay, I understand why they didn't adopt this, and they adopted the Garand. It's not hard to figure out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The rifle's much better than the machine gun, though.
Oh, wow.
No. What is your opinion, this is from Tyler, of the Stoner 63? Do you think it had more potential for development and wider adoption?
I'd say yeah.
Because I'm sure you've shot a Stoner.
Oh, yeah, I've got one. I did a video, too, with my buddy Monty LeClaire on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I've got a 63A
All right.
in the Commando format, which is the classic, Navy SEAL format to have with the fluted barrel and everything.
Well, tell me, because I've never shot one.
Oh, dude, they're awesome to shoot.
Okay.
Very lightweight. The gun had a lot of potential. I tell you, you'd really dig it, and I'll tell you why. It was like Eugene Stoner and his crew went out of their way to build this system for gun guys.
Ooh.
Because everything, there's so much thought process into it. And, you flip the receiver over and it's a rifle, and you flip it over and it's a belt fed, and then the trigger mechanism, it's unbelievable. It's awesome, the thought that went into it. And that's why the collectors love it so much, and it's so fascinating. The flip side is, though, for the average GI, far too complex.
Okay. So that's why.
That's ultimately what it is.
Okay.
Far too complex. Is there a gun? Is it a gun that somebody could have jumped in and said, yeah, okay, great idea here. We got to simplify this. We got to remember we're handing this to, grunts, or GIs and Marines and whatnot. So we got to we don't need this incredible modularity, and get rid of some of that and kind of simplifies and ruggedize some things. And I think, the gun had a lot of potential. Very controllable gun to shoot, very soft shooting, lightweight for a belt fed. So yes, the answer is the gun had a lot of potential. It's a cool gun. If you ever get a chance to dig into one, you'll dig it.
I'm waiting.
There's so many little things you go, that is cool. I mean, you know what I mean? He put a lot of thought into it.
Okay.
So it's like he built it for gun guys.
Nice.
Not really soldiers. It's guys like you and I will see it and go, man, that is awesome.
So Special Forces guys in Vietnam did use them.
Yeah, SEALs, I believe, did use them. I don't know if the Army used any of them, but SEALs did use them.
I think it was just SEALs,
yeah.
or just Special Forces guys as a general group. It sounds like something they could exploit, having more ability to take care of it.
It's a gun I can tell you this, the hotter the ammo, the better. The gas system's right on the ragged edge of being able to work.
Okay.
You got it, and you got to keep the gun wet. You got to keep it lubed to keep the friction down. So it's not one of those guns you would never call it overgassed.
Okay.
You would never call it an overgassed gun. The flip side is it's super controllable to shoot.
Okay.
It's lightweight for a belt fed. When you pick it up, you're like, whoa, this thing's lightweight. And then when you fire it, you're like, whoa. I mean, it's a cool gun.
Okay.
I dig the Stoner 63.
Well, I look forward to an opportunity to, let's see. Next up from Hartley. Given that Larry is a fellow southpaw, I wonder how he runs right-handed bolt-action rifles compared to Ian's technique.
Well,
do you even bother shooting bolt-action rifles?
Once in a while, I do. When I'm prone and I have the ability to rest the forend, I run it with my right hand.
Okay.
When I'm not and I have to run it, I'll kick it. And as a general rule, depending on the situation I'll shoot and then I'll kick it to the side and come over the top like that.
Okay.
That's generally how I do it. I have been known to shoot it and then come back like this, run it, and then come back on. But as a general rule, if I'm running it and I'm standing, shoot it, roll it outside, come over, rack, and go. Now, if you got an optic on, that changes everything. If I'm prone and the forend's rested, or the bipod or wherever the case may be, I'll shoot it and then run the bolt like that.
Okay. I found manipulating the bolt with my right hand works on cock-on close guns, not so much on cock-on opening guns. There's too much trying to...
Yeah, sure.
But on an Enfield or something like it, when you can just pop the bolt open, and then when you push it closed, you're pushing the rifle back down on the target. Cool. You're not actually left-handed, though.
No, I'm left-eye dominant.
Okay.
I'm right-handed, left-eye dominant.
You got the worst of both worlds. You're cross-dominant.
Yep.
Doesn't seem to have held you back.
Amphibious. Yeah. Right-handed, I figured it out when I was real little. I was out in the backyard, like shooting my 22 or BB gun or whatever it was, and I could tell, I was like, wait a minute. I can see the sights better if I go to my left. So from then on, I shot left-handed. Okay. My left eye is not only dominant, it's the strongest eye, so I've shot left-handed long guns since I was little. Okay. And my son's the same way. I shoot a pistol right-handed and just turn my head, and then I shoot a long gun left-handed.
Okay.
Amphibious.
Nice. Philip says, what part of firearms development do you find most interesting? And where can I buy a signed copy from you both of the new book?
Bam, vickersguide.com. Get on there and order. If you order a signature book by the 9th of December, it's automatically signed by me and Ian.
That's going to be a problem because I think this video is going up on the 10th of December.
Well, hopefully,
So-
maybe we'll have some in the inventory.
Yep.
Who knows?
If they don't all sell out, we will be signing enough to have some spares.
Yes, correct.
And that, of course, is why I'm here, is because we're both signing books.
Exactly. So what year do I find?
What part of firearms development is most interesting to you? Let's go with historical era, although that may be kind of a gimmick.
You know,
we've already been talking about Germany, World War II.
And I'm an assault rifle guy. If you know, people automatically assume I'm a big pistol guy because of the 1911 and this and that and the other, and I got all these different guns and like to shoot them all. But if it comes down to what's the thing that I'm the most passionate about, would be assault rifle. So that would definitely be it.
There it is, development of the
assault rifle.
Okay,
that would be it.
Next up from Adam. What handgun would you have picked for the Army's new handgun selection process, and why? And I will throw in a part B. Does it really matter all that much?
No, number one, I'd have picked a Glock for sure. I'd have picked some flavor of Glock, without a doubt. I mean, to pick for a service pistol, if you're going to say, okay, we're going down the path of this polymer frame striker fired pistol, for a service pistol, to pick anything other than a Glock, to me, is just insanity. I mean, you're talking about a gun that's the most popular handgun in history. There's been more Glocks made than any other handgun in history. Thoroughly vetted. We know the ins and outs of it. I mean, to pick anything else to me is just crazy. B, no, it does not.
Okay.
It does not. Because only a small section of the military uses them. They already kind of have the guns they want. By the way, are Glocks.
Okay.
I mean, so special operations, basically, SOCOM, pretty much all use Glocks.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so they've already got Glocks. The main gun is being the Glock 19 in one flavor or another, but your SEALs, MARSOC, they've been using Glock 19s and USASOC for the longest time. So really, that they've already got their Glocks. They're not overly concerned about what Big Army's doing. So the answer is, no.
So I don't know if you have any insight into this, but why wouldn't they have picked the Glock? Why did they go with the SIG?
I think more than anything is cost.
Okay.
I've been told that SIG is selling the 320 to the Army at cost.
Wow. Okay.
Literally at cost. So, and I read it, I think, on Soldier Systems or somewhere. They said basically to go with the Glock, it was going to be $100 million more throughout the life of the contract. So they're like,
that $100 million is a bit of persuasive reasoning right there. Okay.
So that's it. That's ultimately what it is.
Okay.
But by all counts, this is what I've been told, supposedly insider baseball, is the Glock won. It was hands down the best gun. However, the 320 still met the standards.
Okay.
So they're like, okay, yeah, the Glock may have been but this gun still meets the standards, and throughout the life of the contract, it's $100 million cheaper. We'll take it.
And we don't expect a whole lot of people to actually really need top-level performance out of a sidearm.
So, and like I said, the guys in the military, in the special operations arena that actually use pistols and shoot them a lot, they've already got Glocks. So it's kind of a moot point.
Okay. Next up, from Will, before M4s came out and Delta used Colt 723s, what were the other elite Army units like Special Forces and Rangers issued? Special carbines like Delta or M16s like Big Army?
Mainly M16s. You also saw a lot of MP5s in use. You saw SEALs used quite a bit. As a matter of fact, you had SEALs go in Panama with MP5s. There were some issues there because, I mean, you're shooting a 9mm select fire carbine. So, but yeah, so you had MP5s, depending on what arena you're the special operations community you're in. You also had some Air Force and some Rangers and different people with other flavors of Car 15s.
Okay.
Generally predecessors to the 723.
Okay.
723 was kind of the latest at the time.
It's really close to an M4.
It is. By the way, fantastic gun. Okay. 723 is a dynamite gun. I mean, really, it's the gun I cut my teeth on, and it's a great gun. It's made during that era when Colt really didn't have big contracts. They weren't having to put out a lot of guns. Frankly, each gun was built better, and it was a great gun. Served Delta exceptionally well.
What's the difference between a 723 and an M4?
Well, mainly what ends up happening is, you're obviously carrying handle. That's part of it. The 723 has a A1 style carrying handle that has the brass deflector. Okay. Okay. They also had thinner barrels, and they had M4 style barrels with the grenade with a 203 cut. So mine had a 203 cut, but I knew other guys that had skinny barrels, and obviously Colt put on whatever they had.
Sure.
One of the issues you got into with the M4, the unit Delta really never shot the 723s on full auto much at all. We were basically semi-auto and really never shot them in full auto much at all. If you shot those guns a lot on auto, because of that carbine length gas system, you would kind of tear the gun up. I mean, to be honest with you, that's why the mid-length gas system reigns supreme now, because you push that gas port farther out, and that makes a huge difference on the pressures involved.
Right.
So now we have a carbine length gas system. Now the gun's running, faster. So we have to do all this juggling act, and that's what ends up happening to the M4 carbine. And part of it is early on too, they didn't take into account the higher carrying handle. So when you went to zero them, they had a standard height, front sight, block, gas block, and now you would elevate the front sight, it'd be wobbling. So there was a lot of little things that when they went from the 723 and 727, which was the 723, the adjustable A2 style rear, when they went from those two guns to the M4, there's a few things that didn't translate that well.
Okay.
Ultimately, the M4, everything got debugged and got sorted out and everything. But all those guns in that carbine arena, it's best to run them semi-only. If you run full auto on them a lot, you're going to eventually have problems. You're going to wear the guns out. You're going to have issues.
Okay. It is interesting to hear that Delta didn't really use full auto on their carbines
very,
much.
very little.
That's. I would like to think that's what you often hear educated people saying.
Semi-auto.
But
I mean, to be honest with you, when I was an instructor there, the only thing we really used it for was to demonstrate getting behind and being aggressive behind the gun.
Okay.
Because one of the things about semi-auto, and I still see it in my carbine classes today, is you semi-auto guys will get real lazy. And so they're doing this number and everything. Full auto is good to break that.
That's
So
true.
you go, hey, we're going to come here and do a mag dump, and I want you to put the mag dump in the center of the target. So you got to get behind the gun, and you're like, that's how you need to be shooting semi-auto.
Okay.
So that's really all we used it for.
That makes good sense.
It's not very usable in a shoulder-fired weapon.
Okay. Next up, we have 4 more here. From Corey, do you have any plans to do another 1911 build class, specifically in Phoenix? I don't know if you have scheduling out there, but are you doing 1911?
We're doing one in Austin, Texas next summer of 2018.
Okay.
It's listed on my website, vickerstactical.com, the training page. It's also being hosted by Aztec Training Services, so it's on Aztec. And Jeff Gonzalez, a buddy of mine, who's another well-known firearms instructor, he's hosting it down in Austin at the range. It's an indoor range down there, real high-end. When we're doing that, I think it's July of 2018. That's the closest one to Phoenix.
Okay.
So,
if people aren't familiar with it, what is a 1911 build class of yours?
Well, I have a video. If you go on my YouTube channel, we have a video that highlights what it is. It's 5.5 days.
Jeez.
Wow. And you basically show up with a box full of parts.
Okay.
We don't do any milling machine work.
Okay.
The only thing we'll do is we'll drill the roll pin for the front sight. And that's it. But it's all hand work, fitting the gun together, barrel fit, slide to frame fit, all that kind of stuff. You basically take a box full of oversized parts, and then by the end of the week, you've got a functional pistol.
That's pretty cool. Presumably a really nicely functional pistol.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Yep. I've done now, I think 11 of them.
Okay.
Yeah, and they've been very successful.
That sounds
I
pretty
normally
cool.
do one a year. I didn't do one in 2017 because I moved and made a few changes, and I was going to try to find a way to do one near my home. I have not found a place yet. They talked me into doing one in Austin for 2018.
Okay.
Because historically I'd done them on the road, which is hit or miss in terms of the facility you're at. Sometimes you go into a facility that's awesome. Other times you go and you're like, whoa. It's kind of like doing it in a dungeon.
Having traveled and done video in all sorts of weird places, I've done video in hallways outside of shooting ranges.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. From Mike, why were the Germans unique in developing a general-purpose belt-fed machine gun that was issued down to the squad level? That provided their infantry with firepower superiority compared to the magazine-fed LMGs used by basically all the other armies in World War II. What sparked that development, and why didn't anyone else copy it?
If you got to look now, you can speak to this in many ways probably better than me, but you got to look prior to World War II to what the Germans were developing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. In terms of how they were having their infantry squad basically supporting and maneuvering off the machine gun,
right?
And the way they implemented it, and then where it would be not only used as a light machine gun but a medium machine gun, and also indirect fire and whatnot. So they kind of brought together this whole system and felt like, and of course they had water cooled guns before. They knew what that was all about. Mm-hmm. They played with enough magazine-fed guns to know what that's about.
In the early 30s, they were using a lot of 0815s and MG08 still, and they were using a lot of Dreyse MG13s, which are mag-fed.
Exactly. So they saw both ends of the spectrum and went, we need something that bridges this gap. Now, Peter Kokalis was never a big fan of the concept. However, of the general purpose machine gun, he was always a big fan of kind of separating the two. I kind of see where the Germans were coming from. And you know what? History's kind of borne that out, because you go, okay.
Yes. How many people are still using 42s today?
Right. And then you look at it and go, okay, we kind of have a gun that falls in the middle. That's the two extremes here. Mm-hmm. This makes more sense because it does cover both. We're less likely to go direction of the heavier gun that's in a fixed position. It can still happen, but we're less likely. We're actually more likely to go to the direction of a gun that's on a squad level guys need to maneuver with. So this is kind of the gun that bridges the gap between the two. That's no doubt where that came from. Okay. And the fact that a relatively quick barrel change, especially when you look at it compared to contemporaries. Look at the 1919 series and whatnot.
It's like...
Exactly.
Technically changeable.
Right, but that's, even the 34, when you look at it. Now, the 42 is obviously a far superior barrel change setup. It's excellent, and it's very well designed in that regard. But even the 34, in terms of your way...
That's no slouch.
No.
Yeah.
So, I get where they're coming from. They're kind of looking for a gun that just kind of split the needs down the middle.
One of the interesting things, a lot of people ask why they continued to build 34s to the end of the war.
Oh, yeah. You know why. Tell them.
It's because they had built a whole bunch of armored vehicles for the 34, and the barrel change in the 34 is you take the receiver and you just rotate it off the barrel.
Pull the barrel out the back.
Pull it straight out the back, and it's really easy to fit into a confined area like a vehicle.
Put the barrel back in, close it, and away you go.
You don't want to try and redesign the Panther to use the side barrel thing from the 42.
Exactly. That's it. And that's why they made them all the way up to the end of the war.
Yeah.
That's exactly why.
All right. Ed, I'm going to paraphrase Ed's question slightly. Why does HK hate 10 millimeter? What he actually says is, are you aware of any handgun prototypes or plans for USP or HK-10?
No, I don't. I don't know of any.
Okay.
I don't know why. If I had to speculate, this is pure speculation, is they made the only 10 millimeter gun that I know of them ever making was the MP5-10, and I've got one. They're, by the way, cool shooting gun. Amazingly soft shooting for what it is. Fairly slow cyclic rate. I did a video on one. Mm-hmm. You can check it out. I was impressed.
That kind of overpowered cartridge makes a lot of sense in a submachine gun.
It does. They made it for the FBI.
Yeah.
However, it could be one of those things that they saw service life, parts breakage, all that kind of stuff, feedback from the FBI kind of made like, you know what? I don't know that we want to go down this path.
One might also look into who does use the 10 millimeter.
Now,
nobody.
Yeah, nobody. You still have pockets of civilian, but no, I don't know of any law enforcement agencies. Certainly, no military is using it. So really, you've got a scattering of civilians that still like it for what it is. But
well, HK is really big about catering to the civilian market. You don't need to make any editorial comment there.
In my mind, the best 10 millimeter gun and the best 10 millimeter application is guys going out and backpacking in bear country or wherever, and you carry a Glock 20. That to me is the best. I would much rather have a Glock 20 on my hip than any wheel gun, because you're like, okay, I need a 44 Magnum or whatever. Well, okay, I'd rather have a Glock 20 that holds 15 rounds.
Yeah, than a 44 that holds 6.
Exactly. Yeah. So that to me, the Glock 20, when you're going in critter country, makes all the sense in the world.
Okay. Cool. You're really a big Glock fan.
Yeah, certain Glocks.
Okay.
To me, Glock 19, Glock 17, Glock 20, that's the stars of the lineup. I think they're great guns for what they are. Beyond that, not so much a fan.
Okay.
Glock 43 for what it is okay. Glock 45s, I'd rather have other 45 pistols. When you get into some of the other oddball calibers and 40.
Not a 45 Gap fan?
No. And then the Glock, the Glock 40 has always had issues because they essentially, instead of building, what they should have done is built a gun that was essentially between the 9mm and the 45, right down the middle.
Right.
They essentially put 40 in a 9, and they've had problems since day one, and they still have problems.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm a Glock fan, but specific models. Really, 1917 and Glock 20. I think those are the stars.
Okay. And one last question. I don't know if you're going to have any input on this one, but we'll throw it out there. This is from Matt, who says, do you have a preference between Inglis-built high powers and FN-built high powers? I have one of each, and I prefer the Inglis. Would be great to hear an opinion from someone with as much trigger time as...
I would say either one.
Okay.
I don't really. I like Inglis-built guns. I just have a soft spot for them. I like a lot of Canadian-built guns. I'm a fan of Demaco, Colt Canada, the Inglis guns, the Brens and whatnot. I just got a soft spot for them. I don't know why.
Well, they did good stuff.
They made good stuff.
Yeah.
It was good quality stuff. The stuff was reliable. So I'm a fan of Canadian military small arms in that regard. Now, not going back to World War I, because I know you're going to zing me there.
I like the Ross. I think the Ross has a bad rap.
Well, there you go.
The problem with the Ross wasn't the gun. It was the shitty British ammo.
We talked about that on the last trip, I thought. Yeah,
probably
I think we did.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I like the Inglis high power. You know, maybe between the two, I might pick that one over the Belgian gun, but I don't know that it's really any difference.
It's probably easier to find an Inglis gun that you can legally throw a shoulder stock onto than a Browning one.
True.
Or a FN one.
You know, I think there's some merit to the fixed rear sight. Believe it or not, a lot of people would poo-poo that, but I think there's some merit to that.
Okay, you're not shooting out to 500 yards.
No, you're not. You can drift adjustable the front. You can put it in a different height front if you need to. So yeah, I'm an Inglis fan. I'm a Colt, like I said, Colt Canada fan, Demaco fan. I'm a fan of their military small arms. So
all right, pretty cool.
If I had to pick between the two, yeah, it'd probably be an Inglis. But that doesn't mean I'm poo-pooing the Belgian gun. That's for sure. Okay.
Well, cool. That was a bunch of questions. I appreciate the time.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and of course, what people should do now is click over to vickersguide.com. And it's not just World War II Volume 1 that's there. You have 2 books on the AR-15, also a book on the 1911. If people are interested, I have reviews on all 3 of those. Yep. All 3 of those are, they're not, they're fair reviews because they came out before I was involved in this one. I figure if I put up a review of this one, it's going to be kind of unfair. Yeah,
but you're right. The flip side is, though, the people watching this know you're involved. It has a lot of credibility to it. It's not like you're not gonna be involved in a book that's garbage.
I would certainly hope not.
You know what I mean?
So I'm actually very happy with how this.
Yeah, I would be the same way. I'm not gonna put my name on a book that's garbage.
Yeah.
Actually, big fan of the book. I think visually this is our best book yet. Nice. And it's because of the wide variety of small arms in it. You got blued guns, you've got guns with patina on it, you got wood stocks, you've got all different kind of handguns, you've got all different kind of stuff in there, which is a great visual variety.
Yeah.
I'm real happy with how the book turned out. Very, very happy.
And you have package deals. So if people want to get a couple of them, both the AR books and the German book, something like that, there's special bonus discounts you get.
Discounts,
for them, So definitely check those out. Thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you, Larry, for joining us for this.
Thank you.
Tune in again tomorrow for another cool Forgotten Weapon.